So, Jamie Raskin just dismantled the GOP's latest smear campaign by revealing a devastating statistic that MAGA Republicans are desperate to hide. I mean, while they attempt to destroy Representative Stacey Plaskett for taking a single phone call, he reminded the world that Donald Trump's name appears in the Epstein files over 1,000 times. Let's watch the full clip, and then I'll give you my thoughts at the end.
We're here today on the floor to support the complete disclosure of information related to Jeffrey Epstein and his billion-dollar international child sex trafficking ring. And our side of the aisle, at least, supports the release of information relating to anybody who had anything to do with it, whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or what have you, period. We insist on complete, full disclosure. This resolution has nothing to do with that. This seems to me to be one more pathetic effort to distract and divert attention from the fact that the president's name appeared more than 1,000 times already in the small fraction of material released on Epstein, and from the failure of the majority to move to disclose this information. And it is this bipartisan group that we've had behind the discharge resolution, which has insisted on bringing this to the fore, and we've got nothing but obstruction, opposition, resistance, evasion, distraction, and diversion from the other side. And now we get one more resolution like this. The resolution actually proposes a disciplinary censure against Representative Stacey Plaskett, but amazingly alleges no misconduct. It does not allege the violation of the Constitution. It does not allege the violation of a federal law or a state law or local law. It does not even allege a violation of the ethics rules of the House of Representatives, and yet they want to censure her and throw her off of her committee. This, a distinguished former federal prosecutor, diligent public servant, representative of the people of the Virgin Islands. Now, criminal justice has two parts to it. One is insisting upon legal accountability for people who do wrong. The other part of it is due process, which may be the two most beautiful words in the English language, certainly the two most beautiful words in the Constitution of the United States. It's due process that protects all of our freedoms and our rights against the arbitrary power of government and the will just to punish somebody without any process at all. But that's exactly what's going on here. Think about it. Ghislaine Maxwell had due process. She had a right to counsel. She had a right to hearing. She had a right to hear the evidence against her. She had a right to put on her case. She had a right to cross-examine. She had a right to a neutral, impartial tribunal. She had a right to unanimous verdict of a jury. And all of that she had, and she was found guilty. And that's why she was sentenced to jail for 20 years, even though Donald Trump has transferred her from a real prison to a prison camp where she's gotten very special pampered treatment, like she's in a Trump hotel. She gets room service to her cell. She gets gym privileges other inmates don't get. She gets to use the warden as a go-between with people outside of the institution and so on. But in any event, she had due process. Donald Trump had due process. He was convicted on 34 felonies, but he had the right to counsel. He had the presumption of innocence. He had a unanimous jury trial. They had a right to cross-examine everybody, put their own witnesses on. Now, they want to take a former United States prosecutor, the representative of the people of the Virgin Islands, and without even going to the ethics committee, much less a court, they want to arraign her on some charges based on a newspaper article that she did something lawful. However ill-advised it may have been, she took a phone call from one of her constituents. Now, I don't think it is the position of the very distinguished gentleman that if we find Jeffrey Epstein on the phone with Donald Trump, he should be impeached for it, or is that his position? Is his position that any time Jeffrey Epstein got somebody on the phone, and he got a lot of people on the phone, that person is suddenly guilty? That sounds like guilt by association. That sounds like collective guilt. Our minority whip introduced a perfectly reasonable amendment to say, let's refer this to an ethics committee. Let's have a real hearing. They didn't want to have a real hearing. They want to rush to judgment. Why? So there can be some headline that will please Donald Trump tomorrow instead of a unanimous statement, or forgive me, I think the distinguished gentleman from Louisiana may have dissented, but an otherwise unanimous verdict of the House of Representatives that the American people want all the files open. We've had enough of the cover-up. We want all of the truth. We want the survivors and the victims to have the possibility of accountability. Well, they want to give them another headline, which is that they've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing. Now, if you want to actually give her the chance to explain what happened, then we would take it to the ethics committee. I still don't see what the charge is. Where is the ethical transgression? Where is the legal transgression? Are you saying anybody on your side of the aisle who had a phone call with Jeffrey Epstein should be censured? Be careful your answer there, because there's a lot more that's about to come out, right? So you should think about what is the principle behind this rush to judgment. I want to close just with this thought, because I know there were a lot of people in the chamber who were here when this happened, and a lot who weren't. There was a move to expel George Santos, who was a Republican member of the House from New York. And it was the same kind of rush to judgment, absolute political frenzy. And I looked at it for about 60 seconds. And, I was a professor of constitutional law, so call me a legal nerd. But I said, wait, this guy's not been convicted of anything. Well, he's a Republican. Yeah, I know he's a Republican. He was not convicted in criminal court. To my knowledge, he had not been arraigned yet or convicted of anything in the ethics disciplinary process. They just said, well, there's bad press. We want to get rid of him. Beware of what you wish for. Is that the rule that you want here in the House of Representatives? That you can just draw up a member of Congress in 24 hours or 48 hours because there's a bad newspaper article without asking any questions, without giving that person any due process at all? Is that what it's come to at this point? I mean, all we're asking for in the Epstein files is release the materials so we can check it out. They want to go ahead and censure and remove from a committee a distinguished member of the House of Representatives with no due process at all. I reject this. I hope the whole body will reject this, just like I voted and spoke against removing George Santos, a Republican on the other side of the aisle, because he had gotten no due process. I hope all of our colleagues will reject this absurd rush to judgment and attempt to change the subject here. I reserve the balance of my time.
I mean, honestly, you have to laugh, or else you'd probably just scream into a pillow. The sheer audacity of these people it's off the charts. We are sitting here watching the Republican Party try to destroy a black female prosecutor's career over a single phone call. While, and this is the part that makes your head spin, their own leader is seemingly the main character in the Epstein saga. Jamie Raskin just laid it out plain as day. Trump's name is in those files over 1,000 times. 1,000! Yet here they are, foaming at the mouth over one call. It's just, the math isn't mathing, is it? If you actually cared about trafficking, if you actually cared about justice for the victims, you wouldn't be wasting taxpayer money on a censure resolution for a phone call. You'd be dragging the guy named 1,000 times in front of a committee. But they aren't doing that, are they? Because this whole thing isn't about justice. It's a panic move. It's a smokescreen. They are terrified that the public is going to start asking questions about the John Doe who keeps popping up in the documents, so they decided to manufacture a scandal to muddy the waters. And did you catch that detail about Ghislaine Maxwell? I actually had to rewind that part because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Room service, gym privileges, using the warden as a personal secretary, that is absolutely sickening. We are talking about a convicted sex trafficker living like she's on a holiday retreat. It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why is she getting the VIP treatment? It feels incredibly suspicious, almost like she's being kept comfortable for a reason. You really have to look at the contrast here because it tells you everything you need to know about the modern GOP. They are willing to weaponize the government to smear a public servant like Plaskett, who has done nothing illegal, while simultaneously pampering a monster like Maxwell. It's effectively a protection racket. If you're on their team, or if you have dirt on their boss, you get the plus treatment. If you're an enemy, they'll try to ruin you without a shred of evidence. It's the hypocrisy that kills me, though. Raskin brings up George Santos, and he's right. Democrats, for better or worse, actually stuck to their principles and said Santos deserved due process. Even for a guy who lied about literally everything, they followed the rules. And now, the Republicans are just throwing the rule book in the trash. They don't care about precedent. They don't care about fairness. They just want a headline. That's the tell, isn't it? Bypassing the ethics committee. If they actually had anything on Plaskett, if there was a real crime or a real ethical violation, they would be sprinting to the ethics committee to prove it. They would want an investigation. The fact that they are skipping the investigation proves they know there's nothing there. They know she's innocent. They just need the censure graphic for Fox News tonight. It's lazy, it's dangerous, and frankly, it's embarrassing. They aren't legislating, they're just content creating for an audience of one, and that audience is Donald Trump. They are degrading the entire institution of Congress just to provide cover for a guy who is drowning in legal trouble. It is completely transparent, and Raskin's warning that gave me chills, to be honest. Be careful, because there's a lot more that's about to come out. You can see the panic in the room when he says that. He knows where the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking. It feels like the GOP is walking into a trap of their own making. They are pulling a thread on this Epstein stuff, thinking they can use it to hurt Democrats, and they have no idea that the whole sweater is about to unravel on top of them. This is what happens when you have a party that has completely abandoned any sense of morality. They think they can project their own crimes onto their opponents, and no one will notice. But Raskin noticed. We noticed. And it's pathetic. That's the only word for it. It is a pathetic, desperate attempt to distract us from the fact that their house is burning down. I mean, think about the message this sends. Snitches get stitches, right? But apparently accomplices get puppies and room service. That is the message coming out of the Trump-influenced DOJ and this Republican House. It is a war on the rule of law disguised as a congressional resolution. They are attacking Plaskett not because she's guilty, but because they are guilty. It is classic projection. Every accusation is a confession with these people. They are screaming about corruption while they actively cover up for the most corrupt figures in recent history. So yeah, that's where we are. A major political party is acting like a PR firm for a criminal enterprise, and they are willing to burn down the House of Representatives to do it. It's shameful, it's disgusting, and honestly, I'm glad Raskin called it out for exactly what it is, a cover-up in plain sight. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.